Welcome, everybody. This is Two EdTech Guys Take Questions, full name, and share cool stuff, which is, pretty good fun. Something that we have enjoyed doing for the last couple of years and glad to restart again, because why not? And with that, we're going to leap right into some of this stuff. So first thing is, let's turn on the captions. If you didn't know you could do this, here's your first tech tidbit for the day. So you're in Google Slides, you go down to this little guy right here, the three dots, captions, preferences, toggle them on, and therein lies our captions. Do know that they don't bother with punctuation, so you end up with one tremendously long sentence, but that's a long sentence. Long sentence, but there you go. It's still like one of those better than nothing things, right? So thank you very much for joining us. Hope you are excited to get some ideas from us. First, from a guy who gave a keynote this summer called "Using Tech to Bring Fun Back into Your Life." And if Richard, I got that wrong, let me know. But tell us who you are.
Close, Rushton. Using technology to bring joy back into your teaching. Yes, freetechforteachers.com. 15 years this year of me writing about all manner of EdTech stuff, from super geeky Linux stuff to some more easier fun stuff.
That's right. That's right. And I like your title better, just so it goes. I run a little nonprofit to attempt to save the world from universe. Save the world through one creative video at a time. Awesome start for season 3. And loads and loads of videos by and for teachers and students everywhere at nextvista.org. There are videos about different things that you learn in school and communities around the world and service to others. And we've got a big grant going on wildfire prevention education, all sorts of things going on our little thing here. So let's jump in. One of the things we do is we deal with questions. And so Richard, talk to us about the questions that are out there.
All right, so this is a conglomeration of questions from the last week and over the course of the summer. So this one is one that I got asked in a variety of ways in the last couple of weeks, and that is, our students usually use Quizlet for studying vocabulary, but they now charge to use that feature being the Learn feature. Do you know of any site that does the same thing that is free, or a way they can use it on Quizlet? Yeah, my favorite alternative to Quizlet is a cool tool called Note, Knowt, Note.io. And you can see Rushton is typing that on the Google Doc right now. Note.io. The really neat thing about it is it will not only let you make flashcards, but you can also import your notes that you have in Google Docs or Word, and it will make practice activities out of those notes for you. So that's a really handy little feature. You can do it the old school way and make your own flashcards by hand, but they'll also do it for you. So neat one.
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's a good one. And we've got another question here.
Bring it.
Oh, you ready for this one, Rushton? I almost called you Richard.
Well, we're dusting off the rust on this.
We've forgotten each other's names.
So what you got?
All right. So this one is about a topic we cover quite a bit, about screencasting, in particular Screencastify. And Kev has 2 questions. Number 1, how do I toggle my video on and off when presenting off my desktop? And number 2, I have switched on the subtitle generator. How do I edit the subtitles within Screencastify? I've tried to Google both answers, but I can't find a solution. So what do you say, Rushton?
Well, I'll answer that first one. So the thing, it's a tricky little bit there. I had to do a little searching myself to figure this one out. But when you're in Screencastify, there's a little control thing down in the lower left. You can hide it. There's a little arrow thing at the end. You can hide it so that it kind of gets out of your way. But the thing is that there's a button on that'll allow you to turn the camera on and off if you started with the camera on. And it only appears if you start with the camera on. So apparently that is how you toggle the camera. So Richard, would you know how to deal with the subtitle question?
Yeah, so I tried to figure this out in Screencastify, and I couldn't. So my solution is when you've got your finished video from Screencastify, download it, upload it to YouTube. Now it can be private or public or unlisted on YouTube, either any of those three will work, and then use YouTube's built-in transcription tool, and you can edit in there, and that's really easy to do. I think a lot of folks think of YouTube only as like this place where you're going to put your finished product, but there's really a lot of editing tools in the YouTube studio that can make your life a lot easier. So that's what I would do.
Well said. Keep it going.
Oh, wow. Record speed we're going through here.
Right.
On the screencasting topic, my school has Chromebooks, and we've always used Screencastify for making videos. Now that Chromebooks have a built-in screencast tool, is there any reason to keep Screencastify? That question came from Tanya and about a dozen other people who asked me a variation of that question over the summer. Yeah.
Shall I jump in on that one?
Go for it.
So I will answer in terms of process, right? So the short answer is maybe. And what you want to do is essentially try them both and see which one you like better. You might be like, that's not good enough answer. Okay, good. Here's what you do then. Have the people who are really doing a lot of screencasting at your school, have them tell you which they like better. And then you really have to just ask yourself, is there any reason not to have both available, right? And once you've kind of talked that through with the team, you can really kind of get into the pieces of, okay, we're used to these elements. Different people are used to different elements in a tool, different pieces of what that tool offers. And for each person then, whether the new tool, in this case, the built-in screencasting tool, does the same thing, is the kind of gets them in that space for, do we want to, make that a possibility or not?
Yeah.
So anyway, process.
Yeah, and I would say what Rushton is saying is identify the features that you really need out of it, right?
Yeah.
The new screencasting tool in the Chromebook doesn't have interactive questions, for example, right? So if that's something you've been using a lot of in Screencastify, you're going to want to keep using Screencastify because you can't do it with the native screen recording tool in Chromebooks yet. I'm sure they're working on that feature, but it's not there yet.
Absolutely. Richard, I think there's a cool Flipgrid question for you there.
Okay, cool. Let's do the Flipgrid question.
What you said. Yes.
So the question from Sarah was, my new school district is all Google Workspace, and they don't want us using Flipgrid because they have some privacy concerns. So it doesn't say what the privacy concerns are, but they have some. I used it a lot at my old school and loved it. Do you have any suggestions for alternatives that I could use? So I'm curious to know what their privacy concerns are, because I know that Microsoft, who owns Flipgrid, which is now just called Flip, by the way, no longer Flipgrid, just Flip. I know that tool is designed specifically for education, so I'm curious what those privacy concerns are, but that's beside the point, I guess. Alternatives. You could use something like Padlet, which does have a built-in video camera recording tool. And you can set up a Padlet, create a Padlet wall and put in a prompt for your students and have them all use their webcams to record right into Padlet. So that's probably what I would go with. You could also try doing a series of YouTube videos that students then, that gets into a whole nother area of privacy concerns you might be worried about. So maybe not even use YouTube, maybe just upload them to a Google Drive folder and the kids can all look at them there. But that takes away a lot of the interaction that Flipgrid or Flip offered. So I would go with Padlet. That'd be my option.
Yeah, I think that video prompt and reply and the organized system that Flip has it is not something I feel like I've seen in another tool quite the same way. Hey, Richard, let's do one more question and then get to some cool stuff. So let's go to that next one about the about me.
Oh yeah,
I'll take that one. Yeah.
this is right in your wheelhouse, Rushton.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to have my students create about me videos to start the year. Do you have any recommendations on the best tool for doing something like that? And that question came from Ellen, and Rushton is going to take it away.
Ellen, first question is, how old are these kids, right? Because that would dictate a lot in terms of what you can use. However, one place I would get to very quickly, I think, with most age groups, is that using a screencasting tool is a really good choice. In part because you, in having them, make some slides and screencast it as a video, you have the opportunity early in the year to set some good habits in motion with the slides, right? So this has to do with sources and citations, thinking in terms of using transitions well, avoiding like reading long things from text passages on your slides at all costs, given the nature of the slides that we're working with, by the way. There are times when you want lots of text on a slide, but it isn't when you're presenting. Hello. So those would be kind of the things out there. I'd say Screencastify, Screencast-O-Matic, Loom, any of those screencasting tools would be just peachy keen for the kind of thing you're talking about.
And Rushton, just kind of I'm going to add this for you since this is your area of expertise. How long should a video like this be?
Shorter the better. So I would say that you run without a time limit. Somebody's going to do a 20-minute video and you got to watch it, right? It's on you. You assigned it. You didn't put in a time limit. You're honor bound to watch that 20-minute video, no matter how bad it is, right? And I have seen more bad student created videos than most of the human race. Save yourselves. So I would say, give them like 45 seconds. There's so much I want to say. Choose. One of the big skills that we're trying to teach kiddos is pick the thing that you want to focus on. The job is not to do the complete autobiography, right? The job is to be like, here's something about me. Here's a thing about me. Because the more time you give them, the more likely they'll say something. It becomes an awkward piece of their entire school year in the Just Stay In department.
All right. Good one. Look at this.
Look at that.
This is my cool tool that I want to share today. It's called ClassroomQ, the letter Q. I actually featured it in my newsletter on Sunday night. It's a digital hand raising system for your classroom, or put another way, it's like a digital deli counter in your classroom. There's other ways you can do the same thing, but basically what it does is it lets you create just a simple online place where your kids can click a button and say, I need help, and write down what they would need help doing or the question that they have. They don't even have to do that. They can just click the button. So with little kids, like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, they can just tap the button and says, I need help, right? And the cool thing about that is that you can then see them all in the order they come in. And at the end of the day, or the end of the class period, however long you want to use it for, you can export or download a record of who asked for help, right? So you have this little who raised their hand sort of thing. And no, not only the teacher sees the questions. Only the teacher sees the questions, only the teacher sees who's raised their hand. It's really just a system for the teacher. The use case that I came up with is when I was teaching PC repair class, and I felt like I was running around with like a chicken with my head cut off sometimes, because I had 10 or 12 kids all working on a different thing, and they all would just shoot their hands up at random times. And so I would have loved to use ClassroomQ so that they could have just clicked the button and I would have known in order who needed my attention and in what order. I've done similar things with Google Forms. I used to do a similar thing with the Google Form. Trouble with the Google Form was that then I had to constantly refresh it and always be looking at the spreadsheet or always be looking at the results page to see who was coming in. This is just, really, really dead simple system. So check that out, ClassroomQ.com.
And my share is a video, as I like to do, because I think stories inspire us. And this one, oh my goodness, here's this guy, Mr. Reed, who made a short video that's welcome to kindergarten, right? And it's just beautiful, right? I mean, like that, like the guy's there, he's singing a song, you're getting this view of the classroom, he's talking about the things that the students are going to do. And it just kind of raises that question of, what do you do to make students excited about coming to your room, right? Coming to your class, learning from you this year. Like, what do you do to welcome students? And this guy, I mean, just gets huge style points for having put that together. So that link is in the chat. It's all, if you are watching this as a recording, feel free to also click on the links page as well. If you are getting this from the archives at nextvista.org, then you're going to be able to find all of that stuff. And I'll even send it to you if you properly registered for it as well. So many good things are happening there. Let's jam our way through a few more questions.
All right. So where am I now? All right. So this question came from Sally, who wrote, I apologize if you've already covered this topic. Do you know of or have you used TinyWow, tinywow.com? Our district recently slashed spending on software. A colleague suggested TinyWow as an alternative to Kami. I can't find a review on Common Sense Media. Any information you can provide would be greatly appreciated. So, number one, yes, I have some alternatives depending on what you're trying to do with it. You could just use some of the annotation tools that are built into OneNote. You could also, again, depending on what you're trying to do, you could just use the commenting in Google Drive, because you can comment on any file in Google Drive. So you could try that. But a more direct competitor to Kami is a tool called Lumin, Lumin PDF. And that will actually work well with Google Classroom. I've used it in conjunction with Google Classroom or with files that are in Google Classroom. In fact, I got a bunch of my math teacher friends using it a couple of years ago in Google Classroom as a tool for their students to write directly on top of freehand writing, directly on top of some older math assignments that they had in PDF form, in PDF style. So yeah, not a direct competitor, but pretty darn close.
I can add a thought on that one as well.
Yeah.
Actually, two thoughts. One is that there's a company called Formative that has a lot of good stuff related to PDFs and answers, and their real strength is, or at least a real strength of theirs, is that it's a really flexible way of grading what the students put into these online forms, right? So like if you're in Google Classroom, you're looking at one assignment at a time. Like if there's 10 pieces of that assignment, you're looking at those 10 pieces, then you go to the next kid. In Formative, you'd be able to say, okay, well, I want to look at just this one question at a time. And it's got some interesting tools built into that as well. Pretty impressive tool. But I must add, as second thought, that if you are using a PDF annotation tool with students, we do have to stop and ask, what kind of learning activity do we have going? There are certainly good uses for these kinds of tools, without a doubt. But I would be remiss in not saying that if essentially what we've got is an online, fill in the blank worksheet, are we just killing time at that point? I just gotta ask, because if you can't point to this is how students are making progress with their learning as a result of this tool, I don't know that you should be using that tool in the realm of what can we find that inspires kids. I mean, I think that's our job. So if that tool does what you want it to do and inspires the kids, that's awesome. If not, find something new. Find something that kind of gets you more excited about stuff.
Yeah,
Richard,
I was saying,
sorry, Richard, go ahead.
I was just saying this question and the way that that came about with the schools cutting funding or cutting their budget for software raises an interesting question or a dilemma, I guess, for kind of getting back into more in-person learning after a couple of years of schools being primarily hybrid or entirely online. And that is that now we're looking at, okay, do we need this software if we are in person all the time?
Right.
And I would make the case for something like Lumen or Cami or anything like it, the way that I would use tools like that, not so much for a fill in the blank, but hey, I want my student to identify what it is they're specifically having trouble with. When I taught US history, it would be, I want you to annotate this primary source so that you can, highlight to me, what are the parts that are tripping you up? What are the questions that this raises for you?
Yeah.
Or when I was, teaching computer science, like, hey, this is the part, I don't get this part, right? And that's really helpful in an online environment. And I think it can also be helpful in an in-person environment as well, but from a slightly different perspective in that now I don't have to collect 100 printed out papers with kids' scribbles on them. I can see them all in Google Classroom or somewhere else like that.
Very, very nice. And thanks for getting that link into the chat. Absolutely. Let's start winding this bad boy down, and I'll do it with some words about the thing that I've gotten into posting over the last year. So last year, 42 different posts in our NVIV section. And 42 is, of course, a cosmically significant number for those of you who have read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But I'll leave that reference there. So what it is I come across videos that I think are wildly interesting in some fashion. And then I write just a few paragraphs around it that include what I hope are not the obvious prompting questions for discussions or written pieces, right? And man, the first few that I've kind of tossed out for this year, a lot of really good videos to share there. The one this week, I call Crazy Cool Costumes. There's your link in the chat. You'll find it in the links page as well. And it's about an organization that I think is just a whole lot of awesome. And it's called Magic Wheelchair. And Magic Wheelchair is a crowd that there's just so many cool things that they do. And it's hard to know kind of where to start in terms of that. But what it is it works this way. If you look back at the start of the organization, there's this guy with 3 boys, all of whom have had a particular condition that means that they're in wheelchairs. And at one point, his oldest son said, "Hey, Dad, for Halloween, I want to be a pirate." And he thinks, well, we can make a pirate costume, but because of the wheelchair, people aren't going to see it, right? Like they might. Hey, wait. What if we create a pirate ship and put it on your wheelchair? So now you're a pirate piloting a pirate ship. Well, it just keeps getting cooler from there. And it turns out that you do something like this and you let people around town know, and then suddenly the makerspace people and the cosplay and the Comic-Con folks are all like, how can we help, make cool costumes for kids in wheelchairs as well? So it's a beautiful story. Feel free to follow that link. If you are on the slides themselves, this link will take you to all of them. There's a link at the bottom of this one as well that will get you back to all of them. But man, it just makes you happy to be alive to see stuff like that. So haven't actually put out the September newsletter yet. So the August one is available to you on this fine slide. And I always give away a $5 Starbucks card because why not? I've written some books. If you're curious about the books, just let me know. Happy to, zoom in with you and your team if you're doing a little book study and just kind of encourage you to answer some questions or whatever you like. And then speaking of cool books, Richard.
Yeah, so you can check out my Practical EdTech Handbook, which I'm a little behind on updating for this school year, but You can get it at practicaledtech.com/weekly-newsletter. Sign up for my newsletter and I'll email you a copy of it. It's free. And I also have an ebook called 50 Tech Tuesday Tips. If you're a tech coach, tech integrator, tech specialist, curriculum coordinator, or someone else who's often asked to lead a little after-school workshop, this ebook is for you. And you can also go to my YouTube channel if you have a question or you're stuck on something. My YouTube channel, for some reason, 43,000 people are now subscribed to it. A whole bunch of screencasts of a whole bunch of EdTech tools.
And I think that's a whole lot of excellent. 43,000, times the normal amount of excellent.
I don't know why people keep watching them. They are very boring, but people keep signing up to watch them.
That's because, Richard, my friend, they are useful. and I keep recommending them as well, because I'll run it. I'm like, man, that's cool to know, that kind of thing. So, guys, you have spent a good 25 minutes plus with me and Richard. Hope in doing so you haven't kind of been in that like, oh my God, what was I thinking, kind of realm. And instead you're like, hey, I've got some tips, I've got some cool stuff. Life is good. And watch our newsletters for word about when the September one will come along, which this is September, when the October one will come along, and we're very happy to have you come back and join us for that as well. Have a wonderful rest of your day, whenever that day happens, and may you spread peace and good, cool EdTech stuff among those you encounter on a regular basis. Thank you very much for joining us.